executive platinum, emerald, sapphire.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and I'm very pleased to welcome back the resurrected Lee Harris. How are you?
I'm a lot better, Ria. Yeah, I do feel resurrected. I've got to say, it's 2 weeks we've not spoken, so it's been hard. It's been difficult. But yeah, we're back. I'm back, and all's right with the world once again.
Well, yeah, I mean, we missed you. I really missed my therapy sessions, but, we won't go there. And now you're telling me today my therapy session is to be cut short. So, I'm feeling fairly neglected.
Terrible, isn't it? Absolutely awful.
And I have to say that Crew Travel is brought to you weekly by Blue Marine Travel, who haven't lost a passenger since Lee Harris was born back in the late 1900s, and their people move people.
Nice, spot on.
Right? So what's going on in the world of travel? I mean, things are still changing and heading over to the UK, they're having a headache right now.
Yeah, they certainly are. Yeah, the UK passport officers want anyone applying for a new or renewal to their passport to allow up to 10 weeks for it to come through. The passport office said that the backlog has been caused by unprecedented demand. Now, as international travel returns to normal following the lifting of travel restrictions, more people are applying for new passports previously put off during the pandemic. Now, in March this year alone, more than 1 million new passport applications were processed. That's 13% more than the previous record in March 2019. They're expecting around 9.5 million people to apply for a new passport this year, up from an average of 6.5 million. Now, it's also important to remember also, whilst the UK was in the European Union, British passports were valid up to and including their expiry date for travel within the EU. However, since the end of the Brexit transition phase, British passport holders are treated as third country nationals. This means that travellers will need a passport valid for at least 3 months after the date they intend to leave their EU country.
Right. Well, that's going to cause a lot of chaos for summer vacation if people haven't, gotten their passports yet. It's not going to be a good thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're saying, hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't be as bad. Hopefully, that is the worst case scenario, and they're not sugarcoating it be longer. But yeah, definitely, if you do need to get your passport renewed, make sure you get it in as quickly as possible.
Guaranteed. And there's news out of Malaysia.
Yeah, Malaysia has scrapped mandatory virus tests on all incoming vaccinated travellers. That was as from May the 1st, an exemption it had initially bestowed only to Singapore alone. Wearing masks outdoors will also be optional, and physical distancing is no longer required. The announcement marks another significant milestone for Malaysia since it reopened its borders this month and waived quarantine requirements for vaccinated visitors. The easing is in line with the nation's transition to the endemic phase of the outbreak, as high vaccination rates have kept hospital admissions low.
Nice. And we've got some good news out of Portugal, actually.
Portugal has announced it will fast-track British travellers at border control despite Brexit. There will be passport e-gate lanes for Brits at airports in Faro in the Algarve, Funchal in Madeira, and also in Lisbon and Porto, thus allowing arrivals to avoid long queues when entering the country. This will mean that crew won't need to queue for manual passport checks as stipulated by the EU's post-Brexit directive. Nonetheless, Brits will still need to have their passport stamped upon entering Portugal, suggesting that they will have to queue at some point during entry. Portugal is the first country to scrap the EU's Brexit rules, though other countries that have high travel numbers from the UK may follow suit. While the EU defines Britain as a third country following Brexit, individual states are allowed to set their own travel rules.
Yeah, because I think I saw a news report that Spain and France were also taking a look at doing the same as Portugal.
Yeah, I think you'll find the main sort of holiday hotspots for British people, Spain, France, Italy probably as well, Greece as well. They're all probably going to find a way of getting around it so that they don't have complete and utter chaos, because it's bad enough at airports at the moment. So the last thing they need as well is a load of Brits waiting in a long line of queue, causing havoc. So I think you'll probably find it'll be widespread across the EU this summer anyway.
Well, I got to say, the Brits are really good at queuing, but they're also really good at complaining.
That's very true. We do like a good queue. That is true.
Heading over to Amsterdam.
Yeah, Amsterdam Schiphol Airport has asked airlines to cancel flights over the weekend to avoid chaos due to overcrowding at Europe's third busiest airport. Schiphol Airport said in an email it asked airlines to reduce the number of local departing passengers this weekend by cancelling bookings and not accepting new bookings from the airport in the period from the 2nd to the 8th of May. And now, obviously, for any crew who are due to travel from or via Amsterdam this week, we would suggest you keep in contact with your travel provider or airline directly to make sure your flight will not be affected.
Does this also have a lot to do with the fact that they are short-staffed?
Yeah, basically it is what it is. They're short-staffed. There was also supposed to be a baggage handler strike, which I think has been thwarted, thankfully. But it's just, they've not got enough staff to cope with the demand, hence why they're now asking airlines to try and cancel flights.
Well, I think the world is trying to make up for 2 years of not traveling, getting it all done within a few months.
I think so, yeah, and I think you have to remember as well with airports, it's not as simple as just employing somebody. There's a lot of obviously background checks and security checks that have to go in place as well, obviously, because it's it could be a prime candidate for the wrong person, shall we say? So it's not as simple as just putting an advert in a paper and getting somebody employed within 4 weeks. It is a long process, so it does take a little bit longer, and hopefully they'll get it sorted before the summer season really kicks in.
Right, and United Airlines has some news.
Yeah, and good news for American crew looking to work the mid-season this year. United Airlines will offer a record transatlantic offering this summer. The carrier says that its route network will be more than 25% larger than it was in 2019. And it says it will serve more transatlantic destinations than every other US carrier combined. The airline is expanding its services to Europe, launching non-stop daily flights to London, Milan, Zurich, Munich, and Nice. The airline has already launched flights between Boston, London, Heathrow, Denver and Munich, and Chicago and Zurich this year already. On April the 29th, it commenced daily flights between New York, Newark and Nice, followed by daily flights between Chicago and Milan starting on May the 6th. The airline will also increase services to a variety of European travel destinations, which include a second daily flight between Denver and London, a second daily flight between New York and Rome, a second daily flight between New York and Frankfurt, and a third daily flight between San Francisco and London Heathrow.
Wow, well, they are definitely ramping things up, as it were.
Yeah, they're banking big on the European summer season, and like I said, it can only be good for US crew and other crew who are going to be heading that way, who want to transit the US to get to Europe. The more flights, the better. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it should all be okay. Nice.
And we've got a crew question.
Yeah, we received a question this week from Mark wanting to know when travellers are allowed to enter back into New Zealand. Now, the good news, Mark, is that if you're a passport holder from a visa waiver country, the New Zealand borders reopen to you as from the 1st of May. Please note, however, PCR testing is still in place prior to departure to enter the country, and you also need to be fully vaccinated. Anyone who is not from a visa waiver country, and Mark, you haven't said if you are or not. If you're not from a visa waiver country, you will have to wait until October until they will be allowed to enter New Zealand.
Right. Well, New Zealand actually is still hitting the news in regards to its laws over the entire pandemic. It seems like there's going to have to be some policy changes or something, isn't there?
Yeah, so there was a group called I think they're called Grounded Kiwis or something similar to that, who took the government to court, and they've won the first round of the battle, shall we say? So yeah, it certainly looks like the policymakers will be taken to task, and changes will be needed to be made for the future.
Interesting. Well, I mean, who knows it? I think that was a bit of an unprecedented couple of years, and hopefully it's not going to be something, knocking on wood, that will happen again for at least a century or so. But who knows? Like I said, like I always say, if I was
Queen of the world.
Wow, you're getting quick there, Lee.
2 weeks done me well, didn't they? Look, see, I've been practicing.
You had time to let your brain rejuvenate.
I did. That's what it was.
But yeah, I mean, it just, all these seafarers that were left stranded around the world in this crisis, and now they're stating that there should have been a different method for those people that actually had to go away to work to come home when they needed to, over and above just tourism.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. I mean, we talked about it on the show, that pretty much the whole way through the pandemic for the last 2 years, we've been saying that there's got to be a better way of doing it than just blocking people from coming home or having it as a lottery for people to get back to their own country. that didn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit right with me. It's unfair. It's unjust, especially people like you say who are going to and from work. They're just trying to make a living, and to penalise them for that's very difficult indeed. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see what comes of this anyway, and fingers crossed. Then they may get a slap on the wrists.
Well, I'm sure they'll fix it. It'll only take them, maybe a decade or so, because it is a government. But
yeah, it won't be done quickly.
No, nothing ever is when you're dealing with governments. Anyways, Lee, I have to say it is just so great to have you back. We truly, truly did miss you, and the travel world wasn't the same without you.
Why, thank you so much. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to be back. I've missed it. I've been literally laid up in bed for 2 weeks, which hasn't been fun. I've been bored out of my mind, I've got to say. So I also apologize for updates on social media. I've not done a lot the last 2 weeks. I will get back on it this week, I promise.
Yeah, actually, it was interesting. I saw so much, other information than I normally do when my feed is filled up with you. I learned a whole pile of new stuff.
Yeah,
Sorry?
People probably enjoyed it, actually. They probably enjoyed the break. So, yeah, unfortunately, I will be back this week. So.
No, we enjoy it. We enjoy it. And I have to mention again that Crew Travel is brought to you weekly by Blue Marine Travel, who haven't lost a passenger since Lee Harris was born back in the late 1900s. And of course, their people move people. Thank you, Lee, ever so much. And yeah, it's been great to have you back. So we'll see you again next week.
Absolute pleasure. Look forward to next week.
Lee Harris with Blue Marine Travel. You've been watching another edition of Crew Travel right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host. We'll see you again next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we're boarding passengers.